Welcome, everybody. It's great pleasure to have you all with us. Today, I'm your host and mentor, and great pleasure to have you. My name is Hamideh Ahmadloo. I'm a strategic sourcing manager in Sika, and I'm delighted to welcome as well Sharon Powell. Sharon is Global Sustainable Development Manager at Solvay. If you want to know more about us, you can refer to the link in the chat. And there is a good bio about our background as well, and you can know more as well. We will have a discussion with Sharon. We start with that. And after that, we will have a Q&A session. Please, during the discussion, add your insights, your comments, points in the chat as well. We will get to that during Q&A session. And also, we would like to hear from you as well, what you think about our discussion. And after that, we will have some breakout sessions. This is a good time that you can connect with one another and exchange about the topic and the ideas you have and get to know each other better. With that, I would like again to welcome Sharon. Sharon, would you like to share an intro about yourself, a little bit about your background before we dive into the questions, please?
Okay, no problem. So hello, everyone. I'm Sharon. I'm based in the UK, as you can probably tell from the accent. So I work for the multinational chemical company, Solvay. So for those of you that don't know Solvay, we're a big chemical company. We employ about 9,000 people, but we have 42 manufacturing sites around the world. We employ 80 nationalities, just to give you a flavour of where we are. So we have about 25% of women in leadership positions. So clearly this is something we want to improve, and hopefully we can enrich the conversation together today on that topic. On a personal level, I'm a chemist by training. So I started my career in research. I'm married. I have 2 grown-up sons at university. I have a cat, and in my free time, I like to go running. So that's about me.
Great. Thank you, Sharon. We share a lot in the background as well. And it's great that, exactly. I had the K also in the STEM, and it says a lot. I think it's great that we start with that, about your journey. You shared about your background, being chemist, and you are now sustainability leader within your organization. Can you share a little bit more with the audiences with us about your journey, how you get through that, how this happens to you?
So I've been involved in the chemical industry since I graduated. And as I said, I started as a research scientist. So from a very small age, I knew I wanted to be a scientist. So my career trajectory starting off was always very clear to me. I then progressed through into management roles in research. And at a certain point, I said to myself, what do I want to do next? And I really enjoyed the customer-facing aspect of my role. So when I was talking to customers or potential customers about their problems and how we could use chemistry to solve some of their problems. So from that, I transitioned into technical marketing, I guess you would call it. And from that point, I've had a range of different roles through into more even business management roles. And when I started my family, I was doing quite a lot of international travel. So I asked, and I was working for Solvay at that time, I asked Solvay if I could have a job where I had less travel for a while. And that was when I moved into sales, which may sound strange, but it was a UK-based sale job. So it was something very manageable for me. And at that point, I was working part-time for a couple of years as well. So then I became involved in sales, really loved it. And that helped me to develop different skills, particularly in negotiation, which are great skills no matter what role you have in the organisation. This is something that's really helpful. After that, I was involved in some more strategic positions. I worked in strategic marketing, And at a certain point in my career, I decided I wanted to work in sustainability. So I applied for a job in sustainability, didn't get it. I tried again a bit later, and here I am. So that's how I ended up here. So some of it planned, some of it not planned. Some of it was opportunities coming my way. So that's how I evolved. What I would say is a common theme throughout all of those choices, I would say, was seeing that my role had a positive impact on society. Mm-hmm. So that's very clear when you work in sustainability, because, you're working on CO2 reduction day in, day out. You're working on improving diversity. You're working on your impact on nature. These are all very clear things. But in some of my previous roles, for example, I was managing a disinfection business. It was quite a small business. Mm-hmm. But I think we've all come to recognize from the COVID pandemic the importance of disinfectants. Yeah. Yes. So this was, and our disinfectant was recommended by the World Health Organization as a disinfectant that could be used. So another point in my career, I was selling healthcare chemicals. So chemicals that were being used in hemodialysis, for example. So again, you can see the direct impact on people's lives. And I think without knowing it or not, that's how I ended up in different jobs that I had throughout my career.
That's amazing. And something I hear when you shared about your background is that you were connected to different disciplines in the corporate. You learn about the different functions, how it works, and it kind of ended your journey to the stage you are in that now. I see kind of elements of the leadership, leading your own journey, and also the position you're standing. It has direct and indirect, leadership within the organization as well. I have a question about that. Is it different to lead in a multidisciplinary role or in a technical role? Are there any connections? Do you see there are learnings or advantages you could brought on to be more empowered in the position that you are in now?
That's a good question. I would say fundamentally core leadership skills are the same whatever discipline you're in. So the ability to motivate and inspire people to do things, the ability to communicate well, the ability to get things done, the ability to develop and nurture your team. All of these things are common across all disciplines. So I wouldn't say that there was a big difference between how you would approach that in a technical environment or outside a technical environment. It's pretty much the same, I would say, in those different contexts. And I would say, even when I wasn't in a technical, scientific, engineering discipline, for example, when I was working in sales, I was still working for a technical company. And I think that does change your approach to how we tend to be more structured, more logical in terms of how we approach things. We're problem solvers, and the world needs problem solvers.
Correct. That's an amazing point. My background is in engineering as well. I feel that sometimes how we learned over the studies we had to connect the dots and get to solving the problem, make it as a kind of permanent solution to come in use for everybody. And I agree with you that sometimes you feel you're empowered because of that. You learned it over the time and you could exercise it. That's very interesting. I had a question as well about, you mentioned about the numbers, the rate of the women leaders in your organization. I had a question on that. So do you see that how was that to be a female leader in corporate world? Was it helpful, or have you perceived something is different, or you had to fight to get the opportunities more? How was this journey for you?
Yeah, so my first comment would be that things have changed massively over the course of my career. No doubt about that. Not just within the context that I work, but I would say within society as well. The norms of what are expected have changed. So, yes, for sure, we have more women in leadership positions today than we did in the past. But I think more women are aiming for leadership positions than happened in the past, whether that be because women didn't perceive they could do the job or felt that their family constraints meant that they couldn't be a good mother and a good employee. I hear this one a lot. So there are societal expectations, but also the growing body of evidence is that diverse teams have better business performance. This is undisputed. So we should strive to have teams at all levels which represent the environments where we work and live. It's men and women, it's cultural diversity, different backgrounds, different ages. It's everything. And then we get the best performance we possibly can.
Very insightful. I agree with that. And it's I think it's a kind of journey for everybody. It's a kind of mission, I think, sometimes, that we present who we are and how we can create value, add value in the teams, and show that this diversity, how it supports facts and numbers it's saying, but also being the example. And I think here we have you. It's a great example of how we can lead forward and make it happen. My next question, I see there are questions also about the skills. So it's a thought I had as well when I started my career journey, because at that moment you see the lights and you're driving to that, the things you want to have in your career, how you want it. But at that moment, you don't have much of this vision of which skills I should have, what I have to know, and what are the, first bricks I have to put to make, it goes further and further for me in a better way, or maybe smoother. My question is about that. To yourself at the start of the journey, or probably to the audiences we have here, what are the good skills? What are the things you learned and you found it very practical in your journey? Or what are the things you say, it's good, great that we focus on that, and more than what we know, we learned about those to empower us?
I'd say we're working more and more in an environment that's changing. The external world is accelerating. Jobs that were around even a couple of years ago are changing, and new jobs are popping up, new career disciplines are popping up. And we need to be able to navigate our way through all of this uncertainty. What I would say is that there are some skills that are uniquely human that it's very difficult for example, artificial intelligence to replace. And that would be things like empathy. It'd be things like communication skills, but verbal communication skills. You can get ChatGPT to give you a 500-page summary very quickly. But how do you get that across to people? How do you motivate them to move forward? So it's generally about soft skills, I would say. These are the things that are enduring. Problem solving. Again, you can ask ChatGPT, how would you approach this problem? But there are a couple of things that you need to pay attention to. First of all, ChatGPT has its own biases. So it's only as good as the information it contains. And it also doesn't have a whole batch of confidential information that comes from our different backgrounds, companies, etc. So we all have a unique perspective to bring to solving the problem. And that's what engineers are really good at, is solving complex problems. So we certainly need more of that.
That's great. Thank you. Thanks for sharing. And I agree with you. I had the chance this year to join the Women Day one day in Davos Economic Forum. And what we could hear as well, with a lot of information exchanges about AI and how it would change the form of the business, or how it can drive it forward in a different way. What we hear is that it's the human element and a lot that we can bring regarding also the creativity based on that, how the solution can fit to the situation you are within. And these are the skills with people with multidisciplinary background like you, we can bring at a table, and that makes a difference. Great, thank you so much. And I want to also, we talk a little bit about also the leadership skills. Like to me, it sometimes also comes if we are interested to have a leadership role. We are in a stage of a career, we are focused on more probably details, or we are doing active in the STEM field, but we are aiming for leadership roles. How we can, first of all, make ourselves strong in that. And the other thing is how we can show within our organization that we aim for these roles, we want to get to that and make it visible more to our leaders. Did you have such a challenge? How you think it's good to get our path forward?
So the first thing I would say is if you want a leadership position or you have a particular leadership position in mind, then make it known. Make it known to your manager or other people in your organization that could sponsor you or mentor you. And there will be willing volunteers wherever you are, I'm sure, that will take that role for you. On top of that, I would say every role has an opportunity to demonstrate leadership skills. Whether you're managing a particular project, you will need to get it done with the help of other people. This is a way to demonstrate skills. You could take it upon yourselves to do some training, particularly in some of the soft skills areas, to demonstrate your competencies and to further develop your competencies. So these are sort of some quick top of mind ideas that I have. But my first comment would be make it known that you want a leadership position.
That's amazing. I think it's also a great takeaway for everybody who is in the session with us. The women with great potential in leadership and also presenting how strong they are in the STEM field. I wanted now to make it a little bit personal, like share to us some of the best practices or the memories or what you experienced. Maybe share an example with us about the best practices, for example, in leading diverse teams, because I understand in the role you are now, you are connecting many dots together. A lot of parts and pieces in corporate should get together that we can drive forward in a sustainable business development path, if I understand it well. Can you share a little bit with us how it looks? How is this day-to-day leadership role to you?
Yeah, okay. So pretty much everything I do, I have to do through informal relationships. So typically forming project teams to work on particular elements of the role that I have. I would say that I try to make a conscious decision right at the beginning about the team membership. So to make sure it's diverse and representing male and female, different genders, different cultures, different ages, different perspectives, I would say. So that's where some of the great ideas can come from, is people with a different view coming from the outside. So it's not always perfect, but I try to start from this as well. And also looking at the skills of the people involved, make sure that you've got somebody who's good at big picture thinking, somebody who's good at managing the detail, for example. And then you can make sure that you're delivering the task in the best way. And then we work in multinational environments, so we're all in different countries. We have we make a lot of use of tools like Zoom, like Google Meet, and so on, for keeping in touch with each other. And particularly if you have people in your team with a mix of extroversion and introversion, it's good there are different tools that you can use to make sure that you can get more input from the more quieter members of the teams. So if you're having a brainstorming session, for example, you can use some of the tools where you have online post-it pads where everybody sits and reflects for 5 minutes before you start sharing your ideas. So this is a way to make everybody feel that they're heard and included. And a lot of times at the beginning of meetings, we'll have what we call inclusion moments, where we just check in with each other and make sure that, did anybody have a bad day? Just the human stuff, what did you do at the weekend? How's your cat? Did you get any sleep last night with your new baby? That kind of thing. So, yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. That's great. And I think there are many interesting points for all of us. What you shared as well, I felt how it can go wrong if the team cannot click together. What you mentioned about the ones who has the better, how we say, big picture, and the ones that are more into the detail, how the combination can help. I think that's amazing set of skills that can bring all the values into the team and create solutions in a very practical way. That was great. I see the questions also coming into the chat. We get to them as well. I think I would like as well to hear from you. Solvay is an amazing organization. I had a lot of business interaction with them. You hear a lot about, also in the news, you read a lot about them, how they have great visions and go forward. I would like to know as well, how is the dynamics regarding supporting women leaders, or how, for example, you get more connected to the junior ones in the organization, how they are getting supported, and personally, how you find it the best way, that generations get connected and they get the advantage of, benefiting most the organization.
Okay. So last year we had, and maybe even the year before, we had a program called the A Effect, which was a specific program to develop our junior to mid-level leaders, female leaders, to help give them the skills and confidence to move to the next level. And that program was very well received and very well attended as well, I would say. But that's just one example. We have lots of different working groups, I would say, where people have the opportunity to exchange, share best practices, share challenges. And this is kind of a standard way of working in our organisation now. In terms of connection with younger people, as I said in answer to one of your other questions, we try to form diverse teams when we're working on projects. And I do think it's great to get that perspective across the different ages as well. If I look at, I'll refer back to my sons, for example. They were born already when the internet was a thing. They don't know the world without the internet. So they're really good at teaching me things, because I'm a bit of a dinosaur. And they teach me new skills. It's like, Mum, are you doing that in Excel?
Exactly.
So, yeah. And this is another thing that happens in our organization as well. It's reverse mentoring. So you can have a mentoring relationship where you have somebody more experienced coaching a junior member of the organization, but it can work both ways. The junior member has just as much to offer that senior person. For example, the tech area is a great example of here are some ways that you can improve your productivity by doing this. So there's a lot to be learned, and I think those interactions are very valuable.
I agree. I experienced one time this reverse mentoring as well.
Mm-hmm.
And by chance, because they get through random, distribution and look and how to match the people, they look at different elements. But interestingly, there was the president of one of our businesses, and later I moved to the same business. The interesting discussion we had always, he was always telling me what he aimed when he created a communication to the team, and it was distributed in the organization. And his question was that in the position I am, in somewhere in a corner, how we perceived it and how we found it. Did it have the influence that he had in mind, or it came, and it kind of, got to that, it diluted, and it didn't get to the real, aim he had for that. We had a lot of discussion about the technology effect as well, a lot about the importance of safety, within organization because of the chemical productions. We had a lot of discussion on those and how this important topic, which was in his mind, could get finally to the point that he really wanted every member look at it. And it was very interesting discussion we had. I was enjoying the communication a lot too.
That's a great example.
Amazing. Yeah. So we are getting to the time of our Q&A. Sharon, do you have any last point? What you like to share about any topic that you think it's good to mention about it to our audiences? About your career, any advice, any guide?
Well, first of all, I would say I'm very happy to be in front of a diverse audience of engineers. So very pleased to be here today. What I would say is the world needs more engineers. Fact. We're not going to solve some of the big problems that we have as society, climate change being one of them, without engineers. I'm quite sure of that. So keep doing what you're doing. And all of us, I think we have a role to play in encouraging the next generation, the girls that are still at school, to see engineering and STEM as something that's not scary, that's something that can actually be fun. There's a lot of reward in it. And if you can all go away and talk to one young girl and convince her to think maybe about going in that direction, and then I think together we'll have achieved something very great out of today.
Great. Very insightful. I can share as well. It was great to have you with us. And also, there are, I would say, in every steps of your career, when you are within the journey, sometimes you feel that the speed is slower than what you think, or you have a lot of expectation, a lot about your teamwork, etc., and the things doesn't click together. I think what you shared, the journey you had, it shows it doesn't need, to go through step by step that could be, before as a traditional path. We can try different disciplines. We can try different kind of areas. The part you mentioned about negotiation, learn different things which can come at use in different stage of your career and benefit, clicking these pieces of puzzle together. I wanted as well to close here, but something I thought is very interesting to touch it as well before we get to our Q&A. And that's the question I had, and we didn't get to go through detail. But I liked that you touched, a bit and share more about the sustainability. I started to get more focused on that, and I learned how we didn't, get the detail together and in public having enough information and knowledge about the importance of that. If we don't start today, we cannot get to the point we want. You are now leading in this area. What is your message in that area? What do you think? It's a good thing we also talk about it, share to everybody about sustainability, and each of us could be leading forward in this journey.
Absolutely, yeah. So sustainability is a global issue, and it's going to take efforts from governments, from companies, and from individuals to solve it. We all have a role to play. So in terms of how we can approach this as individuals, there are simple things we can do at home. So, you know, if I look at my own home, I have an electric car. An electric car is not always the answer. If you do low mileages, actually, it's not the best answer. So you need to look at the pros and cons. I have solar panels, which is great in the summer. It's less good in the winter when you live in the UK. So these are some concrete examples of decisions that we can make at home about the clothing that we buy and how often we buy it. Because there's so much textiles put into landfill. It's really a challenge. The food that we eat and the CO2 impact of the food that we eat is also important. Agriculture, I think, accounts for, well, don't quote me on this, but something like 12-13% of global emissions. So there are choices that we can make in our private lives. You can go on websites and look for the CO2 intensity per person of your country. And then you'll kind of get a feeling from where that comes for you as an individual. But I do believe that if we work for organisations, we can also have a big impact within our organisations to make change happen. So don't underestimate the impact that you can have in your organisations as well.
I agree. Each of us can be really strong to lead this forward. I agree with you. Thank you so much, Sharon. I have some questions in front of me. We can start with that. And I ask everybody to share more questions, write it in the chat, and we can benefit this dialogue together. I would start with a question from Shanti. I think she asked a question: what did you learn about negotiation in your sales job?
Sales is fundamentally negotiation. So you want your customer to buy a product or a service. And it's about the tools and techniques that you use to convince your customer to buy that product or service. So I would say a lot of what I learned has been internalized to the point that I don't know that I'm doing it anymore. But I do find those skills popping up in different contexts, in different roles that I've had since. So if you're a chemical engineer, and if you are clearly, because you're here today, and you're working on a project and you want to convince your management to buy into that project, it's the same kind of skills. So, and there's lots of resources out there in terms of developing your skills in that area. Lots of books on persuasion techniques, getting to yes, etc., etc. But plenty of training courses as well. But I find, you could also shadow somebody in your organization who's working in sales if you want to develop those skills. So there's lots of different ways to develop that as a particular competence.
That's great. That was great advice. Thank you, Sharon. And I think later I will have a good news as well to share with audiences. I think it's related to the skills you shared, and it would be good. I think everybody can benefit from that. I will go to the next question. It's how do you look at the failures in your career, Sharon?
every failure is a learning opportunity. That's what I'd say. So yes, I've done things, or I've tried to sell projects and I failed, or other examples. Wherever you've had a failure, and I think failure is a very strong word, it's an opportunity to learn something. No matter how painful the experience, you do learn something from it. So take the learning and move on. Don't dwell on it. Take the learning, move on. Yeah. So, but yeah, I'm trying to think, what would be the standout failures of my career? I would say when I've been trying to push things through that, maybe I was going too fast trying to sell them or something like that. But nothing catastrophic.
Yeah.
Just things that were important to me, I would say.
Exactly. I had, I remember when I was a child, my grandma was trying a lot to teach me to do yoga. And when we had the discussion, and sometimes you want to do the moves, and as a child is where you are wobbly and you don't want to do that and you're scared. And she had always this thing of, what you're scared of, you try it, it doesn't work, tomorrow you try it again. And I think that's the gift of life. And a lot of situations it happens that I want to think, and it looks to me when I do it in this way, it's the best way, it would work definitely. And I see it doesn't work, it didn't match together. And I remember that a lot, because it was the moments that you really fall down and you're thinking, okay, now I have to try and then overcome that. And I think it's the gift of the life, the time that you can try and look at it as a different angle as well.
Completely. If you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. It's the bottom line. Because you don't know where your limits are. Yeah.
Exactly. So we have other question. This is an interesting one as well. I'm the mom of the 2 kids as well, 2 boys. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also the question resonates with me as well. It's how do you deal with the bias among leadership against working mothers?
I would say, at least in my own personal situation, that has changed a lot since my children were small. So we still have a long way to go, but society is definitely changing there. And it's changing because we see that we now find dads saying, I'm leaving work now because I'm going to collect my kids from school. Whereas in the past, it would only be the woman saying this, or even the woman wouldn't dare to say it because she knew it would be a black mark against her career. So she would try to hide the fact that she was, diary filled out. So it's getting better. I'm not saying that we're there yet. But the proof is in the results. And I can share a concrete example from my own experience. When I had, I'm trying to think if it was my first baby or my second, probably the second, I asked to work part-time. And my boss at the time was like, no way. And I said, let's try it for 6 months. And he went, okay. We tried for 6 months. So we tried it for 6 months, and no impact on my job performance at all. And in fact, at the end of the 6 months, he said, this is a great arrangement. You're still doing the same job. I'm paying you 80%. We keep doing it. So, and technically, I guess he was right. Yeah. But you find your own ways to manage the situation. So, so this was a particular case. And then at a certain point, I went back full time anyway when my kids were older. But this was a particular situation. And what I'd say to you is, if you do find some hostility in your organisations, find somebody you can talk to, whether that's in HR or elsewhere. But ideally, a more experienced working mother is a great place to get information from, because they will have learned techniques and tools to get through the very early days when you're completely exhausted and you've had no sleep. Yeah, there will be people to guide you.
Exactly. And I think sometimes when you reach out to people, you're amazed how they came with the creative solutions. A lot of moms. And then we had one time, I would say about 3 years ago for SWE, a kind of review on the parentship and the situation within the work with academia or in the business. How is that? We had a discussion about it. And you see like people from around the world in different kind of roles, how they face challenges. And I agree with you that it's becoming better, depending how also the organization focus more on this cultural change, leveraging this knowledge, putting training us. And the new generation is coming with the fact that you say they've seen a lot of dads. They like to stay with the kids as well. They want to have time with them. And it's not just only the first priority, always work. And it brings this kind of different perspective, which kind of support. And I think it's very important what you said, to share within the organization with the knowledgeable one, with the ones that their role actually is in the organization to keep the environment healthy and remove these toxic kind of approach.
Actually, I'm sure if you reach out, in the vast majority of cases, you'll get support, because companies want to keep you. They want skilled, qualified people. So finding a way for this to work is in the interest of the organisation as long as you.
I agree with you. And it helps a lot, I think, also we share, like we have the community supports. I remember when my child was, I had my second kid, it was before pandemic, and I asked just to have a 1-day home office. At the time, it was not usual at all. It was not accepted. And they was like, no, we pay for amazing, office and all the setup. We need you to be there. It happened, I think, 2 years after the pandemic happened, and we've been at home. I think also the Corona time with all the hostile and wrong situation it had, it brought up new dynamics that actually you can work from home. You can have these, not missing this 1 hour in the way to get to office and back, but at the same time, you can be more productive. It becomes kind of norm. I think also it's important.
Yeah. COVID was one of the good things to come out of COVID, I think.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with you. Good, great. Thank you so much again, Sharon. I'm going to check if I had more questions in front of me. Oh, we have another one, and I think we can then, with that, then we move to the breakout rooms. The last question is from Anna. And Nicola, thanks for your question as well. This is a question from Anna. In a world dominated by men, STEM manufacturing area, did you experience any prejudice because you were a woman?
Being very supported, and some of my best allies are men. So I think when you're in a situation, as I said, we're 25% women now in leadership in Solvay. And I think the statistics are, once you get above about 20%, you don't feel like a minority anymore. So that's above that threshold. So, no, I don't feel any prejudice because I was a woman. I would say it was more challenging when I became a mother. I think this was the difference, because suddenly I was wanting to leave the office at 5 o'clock to get my kids. I was happy to put in another couple of hours in the evening, but I had physical constraints at certain points in the day. That I would say that was the biggest challenge, was being a working mother, not being a working woman. But as I say, I do see the world is changing very fast in that direction as well. And you can help yourself by aligning yourself with organisations that are pushing gender neutral policies.
Mm-hmm.
So offering paternity leave as well as maternity leave, for example, so that it's considered the norm for men to take care of kids as well as females to take care of kids.
Mm-hmm.
These are things that you can look out for in your employer to say, okay, things might be different here.
Great. Thank you so much, Sharon, for sharing. Thanks a lot, everybody, for your questions. I think we can share more in our breakout room again and exchange on that. That was an amazing topic. And I think, thank you, Sharon, for sharing your insight about your career, about the journey. Great pleasure. Before we are moving to the breakout sessions, the rooms, I want to share there's a link in the chat. That's a survey that everybody please join and, share your insight to us. It's important. We can improve and we can look at it, and it's a great takeaway for us. I want as well to share great news that I mentioned about it during the discussion, that if you're a member of SWE or you are not, if you're not a member of SWE, I would say we have a great opportunity in March, the month of women. That's a possibility. You can have 1 month free access to the SWE platform and also free kind of a starting trial of the membership. We have lots of cultural change trainings, a lot of skill development trainings within the platform of SWE, and a lot of space for networking, mentorship, etc. Please try it. If you are not a member of SWE, if you are, please present it to your colleagues, friends, whoever you think they can benefit from that. And now we can start to get into our breakout rooms to have the one-to-one discussions with the team together. This will be an informal discussion, and it wouldn't be recorded. So take it as you want, introduce yourself, talk about the challenges, get connected to the ones you meet, and enjoy it. I think everybody's back.
Mm-hmm.
You had a great discussion. You could connect. And actually, Mario, a lot about the coming SWE event in Munich. It's end of April. And interestingly, there are many there joining. I invite you all as well. If you have the opportunity to join it, I've been in one in London previously. And the energy and connecting to the ones that you share a lot in your journey together and exchange on that and hear a lot about different drivers and initiatives in different organizations. It's very energizing. So I don't know if anybody wants to share shortly about what they discussed in the session together in the breakout room. I think we have also the link for the survey. I appreciate if you follow on that and share your insight to us. You will hear from us if anybody follow the LinkedIn SWE page. We will share about this 1 month free trial as well. And you will hear a lot of news about SWE, other activities, any ideas. It comes as well in that page. Hope you had a great session. You enjoyed the discussion. I close with a big invitation to join our SWE session as well in Europe, in Munich, and see you all face to face there as well. Wishing you a very nice day. Thank you again, Sharon. Thank you, everybody, for joining. And we close the discussion with that. Have a very good day today.